Well, here we are on a Friday morning, sun shining, and Pat McGart waiting for our presents. How are you, Pat? Well, this morning, sun shining
I'm
there.
grand. Sunshine lovely here in Donegal
Uh,
this morning.
uh,
Absolutely lovely.
I don't think you people deserve this, Donegal people aren't good people, they're bad people, and yet God smiles on them. I can't
Bad
believe
people.
it. Okay. Let's talk about what everybody is talking about. My God, it has covered more programs here and news type. The data leak. 10,000, over 10,000 police people and people connected to the police revealed to the world. We discussed this the last day to some extent, did we, Pat? Did we discuss?
No, we didn't really. No,
And,
no, we didn't.
okay.
No.
Anyway, they're in a bad way because all this information has been revealed. We don't need to explain it. I'm sure anybody watching this knows about this leak of all the police officers in the PSNI, some of the people in the MI5 building across the Belfast Lough from where we are at this minute. And they're saying this is terrible. Maybe the chief constable should resign. Maybe he's not capable, Simon Byrne, of running things. So, what's your own thoughts on it, Pat? I have a few thoughts about the fact that it escaped in the first place, and secondly, the implications of it.
Yeah, I really don't know. Apparently, it was. I don't. It's not been disclosed who the freedom of request information was from, but the information was given to someone as part of a freedom of request thing. And on the surface, there was this number, what number of how many police people there were and all the rest. But apparently, if you clicked on the right thing, then it branched out and started to give information. Now, I presume, and I presume, I don't know whether it's true or not, that it was not intended that the embedded stuff was to go out. But however I released it, didn't realize that there was stuff embedded. Now, here's where Simon Byrne is in bother. Either A, he's running an incompetent show that somebody released stuff like that, or that someone's been released, deliberately, maliciously or something. Or thirdly, no, it's just human error and it's got nothing to do with anyone. Now, I don't know. Any of it could be 100% totally innocent. It could be somebody somewhere done it maliciously, but I'm not quite sure why Simon Byrne should be held responsible for somebody that somebody released.
But the buck stops with the
The
top.
only thing I presume he should. He's in charge of the systems.
Yeah.
He's the top dog. The buck stops someone. But someone. I sometimes wonder. I'm not always in favor of that, Jude. If some clown somewhere makes a mistake, as the guy at the top responsible for somebody making a mistake, it's got nothing to do with them. I've never got that one.
Well, I'll tell you, the reason I would be a bit severe on him is that it seems to me inconceivable that such sensitive information could be put up on the web. I mean, there's bound to be surely there was at least a triple lock, if not quintuple lock. Like, you just have one guy going to put the stuff up, and that's it. Like, he should have to go to somebody else, and then that person probably should have to go to somebody else. They're now admitting this is the worst thing that has ever happened to the PSNI. Shouldn't they have set up a simple system of checks so that this couldn't happen? I mean, I think if I was appointed chief constable, that's one of the first things I'd be thinking. Are my members safe? Is there anything in the way we run the things that would put them in jeopardy?
Yeah, but do you expect somebody to put something like that up? I mean, do you cover? Look, I agree. See what you're after saying. There should have been some sort of triple lock at the very least.
Yeah.
Like the nuclear codes.
Yes, exactly.
2 or 3 generals and the president.
Perfect parallel.
Right. This has been described as an industrial scale data breach.
Cock up.
It's also been described as unprecedented, and I accept the fact that the buck stops with the chief constable. But there's a part of me also says, like, can you legislate for somebody doing this, in a way that's so ridiculous and so outrageous that let's stop somebody doing it again.
Can't accept that. I don't think of course you can legislate for the worst thing that could happen. The one thing you would want to be sure, Policemen look underneath their cars in the morning. Policemen don't tell everybody what their job is. So yet we have at the headquarters, presumably at the PSNI, we have a system where if a guy presses a button and bingo, everybody knows who these people are. That sounds to me daft. Somebody, all right, you may say not Simon Byrne, but very upper ranks. There must be somebody very important who should have seen that. Don't they have somebody who's in charge of, internet stuff in terms of security?
Yeah, you'd think so. You just said something there. I met a guy the other day. I was in the gym and he was telling me, apparently, I haven't seen myself, so I can't. Apparently, up on Twitter, there's the quote, "Oh, so you no longer work for Santander." In other words, somebody was telling you were telling us you work for Santander, but you're actually a cop. That was made by someone up on Twitter the other day. So I think he was suggesting somebody now knows you work for the police. How many others are getting messages like that?
Well, tell me this. They were told that dissident Republicans have said that they have had access, they've spotted this, they have the information. Do you believe them? And what should Simon Byrne's reaction be to it? Because he was the one that brought it up and said that it seems that they have it.
Yeah, well, they would say that anyway. I've got to admit that. I don't know. You see, here's the thing, Jude. How long was it up for? Is there any way of checking who downloaded it? Is there any way of sort of following the trail of who's got it? Like, I know nothing about these things.
I don't think there's any way of following up who's downloaded it. I don't think so, except you went to the individual's computer, maybe. But how long was it up for? It's up for a couple of hours. Now, I don't know how alert dissident Republicans are, but I'd be quite surprised. I'd be quite surprised if they didn't spot this. The other thing is this. Why would they tell the PSNI that they had got their hands on that information? Now, they might do it because they want to, let them know that they're really under the microscope, that they know all about them and where they live or where they work at least. Or it might be that they're bluffing. They could be bluffing. I was thinking of, when people were kidnapped during the Troubles, inevitably what happened was sometimes grotesque things belonging to the person were sent to the authorities, the security forces, as they call them, to prove that they had this person they claimed to have kidnapped.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's possible for the dissident Republicans to do something similar. Quite obvious one way would be to send the account of, say, 10 different people and the information about them and who they are and where they work and what department they work in. Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah, but the other side of the story is, if they have it, they might say, we'll keep them dangling. They don't know whether we have or we haven't, and we'll do it at a time and place of our choosing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. All right, Pat. Although it would be, I have to choose between the sort of PR
propaganda
of them having got the information and the practical use they could put it to. But one way or another, whether or not they have, as you say, they're dangling at best and damned at worst.
Yeah.
And I wonder what the implications of it'll be. Will it mean people leaving their homes and going elsewhere? There's talk about that. Now, I think that we underrate the extent to which Northern Ireland is a small place. If there's guys living around you on your street, I would say, know very well what they do, what their job is. Now, they might say, I work for the civil service, or they might say, I'm working on the internet or whatever. But you know damn well what they know. And word would spread. People know stuff. So as things stand, a lot of people nearby anyway know what the guy did, that he was a member of the PSNI, or the woman. And secondly...
go
ahead, Pat.
No, but you'd say someone who leaves the house in the morning with a suit on them, comes back in the evening with a suit on them, and they say they work in the civil service. Would you know?
But that's just...
as the guy was telling me. Go ahead.
But Pat, you see, not everybody's as antisocial as you are. people living close to each other get into conversations and chat and say, how's things and how's work, and did you get a break for the summer, and how long do you get for your holidays anyway? Oh, is that right? Yeah. So do you fancy your job? And in no time at all. In no time at all. In fact, you might even have to do that. People are kind of naturally curious about the people around them. I don't know much about the people around me, but I know what most of them do or did do. So it's impossible, I think, to believe that only for this information, nobody would know who's working for the PSNI or MI5 for that matter.
I agree with that. And Jude, I think, and as you say, in most communities, they have a fair idea. Now, how many cops would live in a nationalist area is another matter.
Oh no, they wouldn't. They do
like
there. But at the same time, there'd be lots of people there if they're living in a unionist area. But there's not a lot of Catholics. We're told that 30% of the PSNI are Catholic. So wouldn't it be likely that they would live in at least a mixed area, if not a nationalist area?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then again, that's very dangerous.
I hear Jerry Kelly on it saying that a lot of Catholics mightn't even have told their neighbours what they do. Yeah. And it's quite serious for them. But here's the thing that you can imagine now, there are going to be a lot of people taking legal actions against the PSNI for this, that they stress and about their private data and all. I think this could cost millions.
They're talking.
There are 11,000 people, and if they have to move house, if their lives are under threat, they're going to take under the Data Protection Act. They're going to say this is death.
Yeah, well, they did talk. I heard in the radio yesterday.
The cost.
Go ahead. Sorry, finish, Pat.
Go ahead. No. What I'm saying is the impact. This is going to rumble and rumble and rumble for a very long time.
Well, maybe except the people sue for what has happened. There's talk about it could cost £100 million this leak, because people could claim for the traumatic experience of knowing that they and their loved ones their lives are now at risk. People could claim because they've got to change house. I think, incidentally, if they did have to change house, I think it would be the Joe Public would have to reach into his pocket and pay for that. It wouldn't. I mean, where else would they get the money for it? Yeah. It wouldn't come out of I don't think it would come out of the normal PSNI budget. I think the government come and support them. So it's going to be a very. Last thing is this: if you were a PSNI person, right, and supposing you had to move, I'm sure you wouldn't like moving particularly, but you'd have to. They would have to give you a house at least as good and very probably better than the one you're leaving.
Absolutely.
See the point I'm making?
That's going to be very expensive.
This is going to be an expensive one for sure. Incidentally, isn't it interesting that in the north, Simon Byrne is, feeling the heat. His feet are being held to the fire, as they say. And in the south, Drew Harris, the Garda Commissioner, is finding his feet a bit hot too, as members of the Garda Síochána are voting whether or not they have confidence in him. It does look like we've got two leaders of two separate police forces, and both of them are looking a bit shaky at the moment.
Very much so. It's unprecedented in the south. There's a first ever vote of no confidence, or a vote of confidence, whatever you like to call it. There's no confidence really, and Drew Harris. It's over rosters. It's over working conditions. There's all sorts of things that the Gardaí are unhappy about, and Drew doesn't seem to have that sort of charisma and a good fortune of hail fellow well met. Yeah,
well, he has. You're right. He's very much a northern unionist. There's a certain quality. Doesn't laugh a lot, and you don't see him having a jar on Friday night. But he must have. I think what he was before COVID. There was a certain rota of work, and then during COVID, it was changed. And now he's going back. He's told them, you're all going back to the one that you had. They weren't consulted. They feel they're being bossed around, and they feel they've been landed back in a system that they don't think is as good as the system they had during COVID.
Well, I think, Jude, if I remember correctly, what they're doing now is 4 12-hour shifts and 4 days off. He wants them to go back to 6, 10 hour shifts and sort of 2 days off type thing. They're not wearing it. Someone along those lines.
Well, why would he not? Why would he want to ram them back into this old way if they don't want it? What difference does it make? I mean, surely, if it's a different arrangement of hours, it's not that the guys are working less, but they're just the way they're working, the periods where they're on
work. The way God knows, Jude, the absolute the outworkings of it, I just don't know. In fact, the Gardaí representative, the GRA, are saying that their system is proving to be better. It's more amenable to the public. It's more amenable to the staff, and they don't know why. But I presume maybe that, as the Garda commissioner, he's got another agenda. Maybe he feels that they need more people on the street at certain times.
Well, it's clear that he's done the one thing that a new man should. Well, he's not new anymore, but that somebody at the top shouldn't do, and that is he's alienated his working force. The rank and file are cheesed off. Now, maybe they shouldn't be, but he's allowed the situation to get to this point where they are cheesed off. If you were an ordinary Garda on the beat, you'd think twice before you would put your vote for something that was going to impact on your life. You'd also, if you are slightly senior in the what do they call it?
GRA.
GRA. If you were a senior person in the GRA who called for this sort of vote, you need to feel pretty strongly about it before you do it, because Drew Harris will not thank you for doing that. So it talks to how bad things are among the rank and file of the Garda Síochána. And now we have exactly the same situation in the north in terms of disgruntlement, fear, resentment, anger, the whole lot. So maybe there's something in there, his character that just simply can't do it. Of course, the irony, again, double irony is they took a northern man, a unionist, who worked for MI5, or links with MI5 as far as we can tell, and put him down in the south, and then they went over to England and they got this guy, Simon Byrne, and brought him over. It's like going, where can we find the most unsuitable guy possible? Well, let's find a guy who really would get up people's noses and
he rubs people the wrong way. Yeah.
Well, anyway, how do you think it'll work out, Pat? Do you think will it take long for the north to work itself out? I think the southern thing will be worked out pretty soon, because the voting period is going to soon end. But the northern one, will it rumble on for?
Jude, I can see us rumbling on for a very, very long time, because if the dissidents hold their water and don't give it away, no one's going to be sure for a long time whether they have the information, what the implications of that information are. Can they use a sort of jigsaw that one piece of information leads to another piece, and then you have but that fits? I don't know, Jude, and I think right now neither does anybody else.
Even before this, of course, you had policemen being shot at the guy in Oma there some time ago. 2 or 3, 4 months ago. So even without that, as I say, people had knowledge of who were policemen, who weren't policemen. So they're able to mount the occasional attack. This is simply giving them, as Byrne himself said, giving them information on an industrial scale. Making their life easier. It's not good. Not good. Okay, let's move to somebody else who's under the spotlight at the moment, and that is a woman called Pat Cullen. Just like Pat, it's an androgynous name, Pat McGart, Pat Cullen.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't mistake one of them for the other. Anyway,
I think he made the difference between me and Pat Cullen. Yes.
Pat Cullen is the what is she? She's a president.
She's the general secretary of the RS. What is the
Royal Society for Nursing? Yeah, and she's apparently said at the Fela that at a talk that she thought you really wouldn't have an effective health service on the island of Ireland without reunification. Is she right, Pat? And is what she has said very, very serious? Should she resign?
It's absolute rubbish. What she said, as far as I know, it was a throwaway remark. She said, God, when I think about it, the only hope for the NHS is reunification. The unionists said that about how the only hope for unity with Britain. a hassle whatsoever. It seems to be that they anytime any nationalist says anything of uh, along the line in support for United Ireland, even as a throwaway remark, not even as a policy statement, just a remark. Like anybody could say it, the way things are going, you can't get an appointment with your doctor. The queues in hospital are unbelievable. Uh, there's a friend of mine and yours on Facebook said he waited I read yesterday. He said he waited a fortnight to get to talk to a doctor for 2 minutes, not an appointment, not a consultation, but to talk to a doctor for 2 minutes. And the, the Northern Ireland waiting lists are the worst in all of the United Kingdom. Pat Cullen made a point that God, the only hope for the NHS in the North is reunification. I think it's a totally legitimate. It's like saying, gone to the back of the bus, you're not entitled to make comments, because you're a nationalist. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It sort of flies in the face of what actually is occurring at the moment. If you think about the Gelvin and the way it's, people are being treated as a cancer
absolutely
treated for in, say, Donegal or even down to Sligo, perhaps Galway. And likewise, I gather there's a heart or cardiac centre for children in Dublin, and from all over Ireland they come to Dublin, to be treated. I mean, God Almighty! I actually think sometimes there are people or groups of people they're almost they cut their nose off despite their own face. They'll say no. There shouldn't be more cooperation. We don't want that. We've got keep them separate. And yet the evidence is perfectly blindingly obvious that if they come together or cooperate.
It's much more serious than that. It's almost as if she has no right as a human being to express an opinion. It's ridiculous, dude. She said the opposite. She said something in favor of the unionist position. It wouldn't have been even. It wouldn't even caught. But the fact that she's hasn't she from Donaghmore and Tyrone? She's that's the fact that she's an Irish Catholic background.
I think she's from Carrickmore, Loch.
Carrickmore, sorry,
somewhere near there.
The problem is that her culture or ethnic identity is the problem here. Had it been a unionist saying it wouldn't have been an issue. Well, it might have been a different issue. But Jude, the point is, it was a legitimate viewpoint or throwaway remark on a subject that the evidence for which she's saying it is overwhelming.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a case of Michael D. Higgins in it. Michael D. is obviously a man of many opinions, but as president, he's not allowed to say stuff that would have a direct impact in terms of working politics. So maybe they're saying that
Cullen doesn't have any constitutional imperatives to look after. She's a trade union official. Jesus, Jude, come on.
Do you think will the other people, say she's at the top, let's say she's the general secretary, whatever, do you think the people close to the top would thank her for what she's done? Would they wish she'd kept her trap shut?
A lot of nurses agree with her 100%. Yeah, not at all. I don't think for a second. Jude, it seems she just said, look, the way things are going, the only hope for the NHS is reunification. It could have been even said the next, she was totally pissed off, with the exasperation with the whole thing. So that's a fair comment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do one more now, Pat. We've got two more, but you can choose which of the two you'd like to do, because we're going to try to keep this to 20 minutes. I think we're past 20 minutes already. Jim Allister is very adamant, and God, he said some. You've sent me some quotations of the things he has said. Says, those advocating a return to Stormont are signalling a willingness to accept colonial rule from Brussels and the pitiful serfdom that comes with it. What do you think of that, Pat?
Yeah. No, Jude, here's the point. I know we're going to keep this short. So this week, Leo Varadkar was in Belfast, where he got a Linfield top, by the way, presented to him. Somebody said Linfield have signed an extreme right winger. Anyway, the bottom line, Jude, here is...
did you work that out last night?
Leo... Anyway, Leo said this week the two governments will, if there's nothing up and running by the autumn, the two governments will have to review the situation. And they came out with the usual line that Northern Ireland only works when the two governments are singing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah.
Now, here, Jim Allister is saying that if anyone returns to Stormont on the present Windsor framework, they are taking serfdom from Brussels.
Yeah.
So, Jude, you tell me where's the rock and where's the hard place and where we're going?
Well, for a start, there's no serfdom from Brussels or anywhere else. For God's sake, what sort of medieval world is Jim living in? What he really means is, I don't want to have any part of Brussels. Well, fair enough, that's his opinion, but don't be dressing it up as something ridiculous. Colonial rule from Brussels, pitiful serfdom.
Colonial rule from Brussels,
anyway, he's a man who's clearly stuck with that opinion, and it's the thing he's championing. He might be saying it, you see, to keep the DUP in line. I mean, his job essentially is as a sweeper to keep any sort of DUP people going soft, and that's the kind of thing that put the fear on them. Do you think?
So the thing about that, Britain has been under colonial serfdom from Brussels for 50 years, and nobody's even noticed. So I don't, as you say, the serfdom, it's unbelievable. He uses language almost like we're going to be under the yoke and under the lash and all this sort of stuff. It's unbelievable stuff.
Yeah. No, mind you, don't forget, Pat, that was, they might not use the same words, but that's why they didn't. That's why the Brexit was voted for. Was they were convinced that this centre in Europe was telling them what to do. And in a way, they were right. There was laws they had to observe as members of the club. But I mean, that's called cooperation. It's like a team, football team, and a right winger. Say Leo Radker was in a football team, right? And he was playing in the right wing. And halfway through the game, he just said, "No, I'm going to play in the left wing." And the manager, he didn't consult the manager or any of his teammates. When you work as a unit with other people, you have to give and take. That's the nature of these agreements. But that doesn't seem to have sunk into Jim's head as yet. Pat, will we stop there?
Yeah.
I would encourage, I'll encourage people. Do you feel that our shorter ones are better, Pat? The shorter version.
Sure, Jim. I'm not sure.
I've had one person so far.
I am not convinced.
One person has contacted me and said he likes the older version, the longer version. Let's hear from the rest, okay? I mean, we don't mind. We don't mind. We would slave for hours if necessary. But if the people want, the people will get. Okay, Pat.
People will get.
Thank you.
Good luck.